Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to share my thoughts with you about the translating the science of long-acting PrEP into implementation. I would like to start by talk about the needs and the science of the long-acting PrEP products, and then to discuss the perspectives from the clients, the providers, and policymakers when considering PrEP implementation. And globally, by the end of last year, we have had only less than 1 million people who use oral TDF-FTC, and this is much lower than the target set forth by UNAIDS of 3 million PrEP users. And in our country, it's only Australia, Thailand, and Vietnam who have had more than 10,000 people who ever use oral TDF-FTC. And one of the many challenges in scaling up PrEP is the limitation of options for the client to choose from. Learning from the family planning program, we can see that the more family planning options available, the higher coverage of people who will be protected from unplanned pregnancy. For HIV, the more options of PrEP available, the higher coverage it will be for people to be prevented from HIV. And there are several longer acting PrEP than oral TDF-FTC, which are in various stages of development. And these are antiretroviral drugs made in the forms of intravaginal ring, implant, injectable, or antibodies made in the forms of injection or infusion. Looking at how soon these products will become available in the market, the piperine vaginal ring already get regulatory approvals, and injectable cabotegravir is in regulatory review. There are a few other products in efficacy trials phase, which include the 6-monthly subcutaneous injection of lenacapavir, the oral monthly islatravir, or the daily TAF-FTC for cisgender women. There are also many products in the preclinical and clinical phases, which include the products in the forms of implants, inserts, and patches. Let's now talk a bit about the piperine, which is NNRTI, put into a flexible silicone ring that a woman can insert in the vagina for monthly HIV protection. It received EMA approval and WHO pre-qualification since last year. And in March this year, WHO recommended the piperine vaginal ring as an additional prevention choice for cisgender women. And the pooled result from 2 RCTs demonstrated 29% reduction in HIV incidence with a higher efficacy seen among women aged more than 25 years, along with a significant relationship seen between adherence and efficacy. And in the open label extension phase, the effectiveness was shown to be from 39% to 62%. And there has been no increased risk identified so far for NNRTI resistance development. Acceptability was high, almost 90% among women. And women also indicated that partner influence and perceived community acceptance can affect the use of ring. The cost was set at $8 per ring. And it is expected that the ring service will require fewer health system resources than oral TDF-FTC program. Now, let's talk about cabotegravir, which is an integrase inhibitor. And here, injectable cabotegravir is made into a 3 ml, 600 milligram intramuscular injection every 8 weeks after an initial 4-week interval. And the 2 RCTs, HPT 083 and 084, demonstrated that injectable cabotegravir was superior to daily oral TDF-FTC with a 68% reduction in HIV acquisition among more than 4,500 MSM and transgender women in 083 study, and 89% reduction among more than 3,200 cisgender women in Africa in the 084 study. But although injectable cabotegravir was shown to be superior statistically to oral TDF-FTC, both cabotegravir and oral TDF-FTC were highly effective for HIV prevention. And the incidence, HIV incidence among the oral TDF-FTC arm in both studies were less than 2% per year. 81% of participants in cabotegravir arm in the 083 study reported any injection site reactions, which led to 2.3% product discontinuation. However, in HPKN 083, only 32% of women in cabotegravir arm reported injection site reactions, and no one discontinued the product. And other adverse events occurred with similar frequency in both arms. Weight gain was significantly higher in cabotegravir in the HPTN 083 study, but not in the 084 study. There were 4 incident infections in 083 study and 2 incident cases in 084 study, where participants achieved target plasma cabotegravir concentrations. And this is the subject of investigation as of now. And it was also obvious that cabotegravir can delay HIV infection detection with a median time of 62-day delay in prevalent cases, meaning those who were infected prior to starting the study product, and a median time of 79-day delay in incident cases. And this was due to prolonged suppression of viral replication and delayed antibody expression. Up to now, there has been no evidence to support the concerns around INSTI resistance development with new infections occurring during the long PK tail of cabotegravir. And the resistance detected so far happens when viremic escape occurs at high cabotegravir concentrations, both for prevalent and incident cases. So in the open label phases of HPKN 083, the viral load testing will be used as primary screening in order to allow prompt HIV diagnosis and ART initiation to reduce the chance of resistance development. In terms of preference and accessibility, cabotegravir injection as of now in its current form will need to be injected to gluteal muscle, which is not feasible for individuals, especially transgender women who have had buttock implants. And the price is likely unaffordable in low and middle income countries unless very cheap generic version can be made available. And the product also needs to be stored at 2 to 8 degrees Celsius. And not everyone loves injection. Among our transgender women clients who ever used oral TDF-FTC, only 3/4 of them reported interest in using injectable cabotegravir. And among HPTN 083 participants at our site at IHRI, 81% of those in cabotegravir intended to continue the product, and only 2/3 of those in oral TDF-FTC intended to switch to injection. So what does this mean to implementation? According to our client-centered differentiated PrEP service delivery model, what we have discussed today around PrEP products is the what here. And the what will certainly determine the where, the when, and the who, building blocks in this DSD model. And in order to rapidly scale up PrEP, we need to remember that PrEP products and PrEP services will need to be simplified, will need to be demedicalized. So I have made this table up in order to guide our discussion around various attributes that a client, a provider, or a policymaker may want to consider when selecting PrEP products or when designing PrEP services. And let's start with the frequency of product use, which we will soon have products with the frequency of use range from daily to yearly. We should also consider the disclosure of use. Will a client be able to store a certain amount of products in home or in office without being noticeable by other people? Will a product like ring be detected by their sexual partners, or will the implants be seen or be felt by others? And how the product can be administered is also very important because it determines where the product can be accessed. The implant certainly cannot be self-administered, but can injectable products like cabotegravir or lenacapavir be able to make into self-administered form, or at least be administered by lay providers to avoid the need to for a client to go into the hospital to see nurses or doctors to access the product. And now that we have the product with various frequency of use, for example, cabotegravir, which need every 2 months injection visit. How are we going to synchronize PrEP refill visit with HIV or STI testing visit, which usually happens every 3 months? Should we reduce the interval of HIV testing into 2 months for those who receive cabotegravir, or can we extend the interval into 4 months? And this will certainly determine the cost related to the practice. And next is the need to have viral load as part of the HIV testing algorithm for PrEP users. Will the need for viral load for cabotegravir users be applicable for other long-acting PrEP products, which all have potential to prolong an antibody detection as well? And if that's true, then the cost will likely be increased. And next is the adherence support. We are familiar with provide adherence support for daily use of product, but now we have various products with different frequency of use and also different frequency of clinic visits. And drug interaction is also another important concern, especially those drugs commonly used by potential PrEP clients, including gender-affirming hormones among transgender individuals. And lastly, how this product will be positioned in national guidelines will also be mainly determined by its cost and the availability of generic products. And will all these PrEP products be offered as like choices of first-line PrEP for a client to choose from in one country, or will it be presented as sequential options of PrEP? So let's now look at one hypothetical scenario with a young transgender woman client in one hypothetical country where all these PrEP products are available in the market. And our client is very much interested in product characteristics, which need to fit the urban lifestyle. The Plenary ring is not an option for her. She's not interested in islatravir implant because she is afraid that it can be seen or felt by her friends. She's interested in cabotegravir, although with her buttock implants, this cabotegravir in its current form of being intragluteal muscular injection will not allow her to use it. Injectable lenacapavir is her most preferred choice, and oral islatravir seems also a good choice, and the least preferred choice is oral TDF-FTC. She then visits a KP-led gender-friendly clinic in this country, where lay providers in the clinic are legalized to provide oral TDF-FTC, but not to provide PrEP injection. And the Ministry of Public Health in this hypothetical country has never been consulted with about the need or the possibility for lay provider to give PrEP injection. So it's unlikely for her to get injectable lenacapavir in this clinic. She also doesn't want to go to other hospital because she's afraid of stigma and discrimination. So only two choices left here, oral islatravir and oral TDF-FTC. And in this hypothetical country, we do not have generic oral islatravir. And the policymaker in this hypothetical country has no knowledge about health policy, has no interest in obtaining more than one PrEP products as choices for a client to choose from in the national guidelines. So the only way for her to obtain islatravir is to go to a private hospital and pay for islatravir, which is unaffordable. So the only option left here is back to basic, the oral TDF-FTC. And I just want to conclude here that long-acting PrEP products will become available soon in the near future, somewhere in this world. However, this does not equal more options for clients, especially among those in low and middle income countries. So when exploring new products, we really need to start with the end in mind. We need to engage end users throughout the process to speed up the translation of science into implementation. And we must not be afraid of or delay asking questions about implementation. And we should and we can conduct implementation research in parallel with RCTs. And lastly, regardless of any PrEP products, simplification, differentiation, and demedicalization are key attributes to successful PrEP scale-up. I'd like to end here and thank you very much.